See everybody get ready to kick this season off. I'm excited how our team's bought in since I've been there, and the work that the guys have tried to put in when you take over a program, that's the biggest thing, is our guys trying to buy in and do things the right way, and they've worked hard to try to do that. So, but y'all have questions. I'll just let you guys ask the questions.
We'll start over here on the right on the second row.
Coach, Yeezys last year,
Yep.
Jordans this year.
Yeah.
You like the shoes that you
Yeah,
got
do you like
today?
these?
I do. CZ also said he might be able to rock them better than you.
Huh? I don't know about that. I got more swag than CC does. But he's trying. One of these days he might have the opportunity to catch up to me.
Go over here, front row on the left side.
What, if anything, beyond the on-field production, was it about your time with Coach Grantham that made you want to bring him with you to Florida?
Well, his knowledge of the game is really fantastic. When you look at a guy that can coach the defense from front to back and back to front, he's not just a front seven guy that gets help with the secondary, or a secondary guy that needs some help up front. He knows every aspect of the defense, knows how to fix problems, knows how to make sure guys are put in a good position to be successful. And that's what you want as a coach, is a guy that can look and say, hey, here's what we got. Here's what our guys do well. I'm going to put them in a position to be successful. And if we're struggling, this is how we're going to fix it. He's got a lot of intensity, a lot of energy, and those are things that I like. And, really, the best defensive coordinator I've been around.
Go standing back here on the right side.
Coach, can you assess how you and your staff will go through the 4-game redshirt policy, new rule, and how you think it'll impact this game?
I think it's a huge benefit for the game. It's a huge benefit for the game of football, and it's a huge benefit, even more of a benefit for student athletes. I think that is critical, because now you're not putting people in bad situations. Guys have the opportunity that they can go. If there's an opportunity to get into a game, they can do it. If at the end of the season they've really worked, maybe they're not ready to play early in the year, but at the end of the year they've worked, there's some injuries, there's an opportunity to get on the field, they can go get that experience. How it will apply, we're going to talk. I've had a lot of different thoughts about it, and the different ways that we would do it, and a lot. Still, you can only dress so many guys within SEC rules, so on the sidelines. So, you got to really pay attention to every little detail, who's dressing, who we expect to play, who gets on the field, and then making sure that if a guy is going to redshirt, but we want to give him the opportunity to get on the field at some point, how are we going to do that?
Go right down here on the front row to the left.
Dan, the statistic of quarterback wins, are you in favor of that stat, considering that you could start a game and maybe get knocked out in the first quarter, but your team would still go on to win and you'd get credit?
Well, I think who wins the game is a huge stat for me, I guess, in that word. But quarterback winning percentage is a very, very big statistic for me. Winners win. That's what they do. Dak Prescott, really good quarterback for me. One in high school, one in college, one in the NFL. Alex Smith, one in high school, one in college, one in the NFL. Tim Tebow, one in high school, one in college, and, even in his short career, that was a playoff win. Winners win. That's just what they do. And so I think that is a huge stat that I look for in quarterbacks. There's a lot of them, but I think that is one that definitely does. My biggest question for a quarterback is I don't know if I'm recruiting a high school quarterback and he doesn't win at all. What's going to change when he gets to college? What's the next step that's going to allow him to learn how to win there? So that is a pretty big stat for me.
Go over here on the right side, second row in the middle.
Yes, you got 4 running backs with Malik Davis now being cleared that have a lot of experience. How do Clement and Pierce get into the rotation?
Well, we'll see. A lot of it at that position, especially for young guys, that they learn that it's, more than just here's the ball, go run with it. And I think both of them had the opportunity to go through spring, and both of them really learned that. In high school, when they're great players in high school, big deal was, here's the ball, go run with it, and nobody can tackle you. Mine is our pass protection, fundamentals, ball security, route running, route catching, making sure every detail of the offense, of knowing that you're a complete player. So the faster they pick up being a complete player, the faster they're going to get on the field. And, and I think getting through spring gave them the opportunity to learn that part of it. It's not just give me the ball, watch me run.
Go to the left over here at the end of the second row.
Hey, Dan, I know at your previous stop you used to kind of get a kick out of us picking you 7th in the SEC West most years. I asked. I cannot pick Florida 7th in the SEC West, so sorry.
Where are you picking? You picking Florida 7th in the East this year or no?
I got to talk to David and Martez yet. I'll let you know. The first 8 months between when you're hired and when you coach a game, how was that different your second time around? What did you try at Mississippi State that maybe didn't work, that you've done a little bit differently in your second go-around at Florida?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities. I think you all maybe you do it better. Because it's not your first time doing it, you're trying to change the culture. I probably was a bull in a china shop walking into Mississippi State 10 years ago of, how coming in and boy, I was a control freak. I was like a paranoid. I had to do everything myself. And I've learned through the years it's not that way. Hire good people, make sure they understand what's expected of them, put them in a position to go be successful, and let them go do their job. And so I think when you look at that and learning how to manage the whole organization, the second time around, I don't want to say it's easier, but I think the workload's not easier. How it gets done. You've done it before, and you've been in this situation before. And how did I handle it before, and how am I doing it better? And a lot of that is that of making sure that I let everybody know the expectations, then let them do that. Maybe then just like blowing everything up and
go over here to the right side, end of the second row.
Coach, Cece spoke on guys like Percy Harvin coming around the program more. What does that do for you coming back, and what does that do for the program, just having guys such as Percy Harvin come in?
Well, I think it's huge because, you have guys, there's guys that have a lot of pride in the Florida program, a lot of pride in what it is to be a Gator. And so when these guys come back, they can share what the Gator standard means to them. And these guys are sitting here. There's a lot of these guys that are on our team. They remember watching Percy Harvin go win 2 national championships, and watching this guy as one of the best college football players ever. And he comes out and says, "Hey, I expect you to do that now. I expect you to carry on this tradition. I expect you to carry on this standard." And the other great thing is, you know what? I can talk to them blue in the face sometimes with the players, right? Well, they come out, and all of a sudden, Percy comes out and says, "Here's some mistakes I've made. Here's some things I've done in my life. Here's what you should do." Okay? And if you do it, you'll end up being more successful. It might be the exact same thing I just said, but a lot of times for the players, it means more coming from Percy than it does for me, because they look and they say, "I want to be Percy. I want to be like that. I want to be like Major Wright." Okay? I want to be like like Lawrence Wright. I want to be like all these great Gator greats that come back and talk to the team. I want to be like those guys one day, and I'm going to listen to what they have to say and how they got there, and they're giving me advice on how I can become successful. So it means a lot to the program, and I think it means a lot to the players. But I think it's just really healthy for everybody.
Go to the camera platform on the left over there.
Oh, yeah, Coach. And I know you could probably talk about this all day, but just maybe a brief thought on why Florida, why now?
You know what? It was interesting. I had a lot of opportunities through the years at Mississippi State. Almost every year, you get some different calls. I'll be honest with you. When the Florida call came, even when I talked and I got the job offer, I got a call and got the job offer. Went out and looked at Megan, and she said, that one was just different, just in the face. Just there wasn't even a big discussion about it, or what do we think of this? What do we think of that? We're really happy here. I think everybody knows I love my time at Mississippi State. Love the players so much. If there's one thing that's really hard, it's leaving the players. Is the hardest thing. But both my kids were born there. We had a great life. But it was just the opportunity to be the head coach of Florida is just different, and it's special. And, so my wife said, hey, it's just kind of funny. She's just seeing my face, and she knew the second I got that call that was different than all of the rest. And so I think it had a lot more to do with Florida than it had to do with Mississippi State. It had the opportunity to be the head coach at the University of Florida is a dream for me.
Go over here to the right, standing in the back.
Hi, Coach. So you have two true freshmen from North Alabama, Evan McPherson and Malik Lingham.
Yep.
How do you see these boys fitting in with your program long term?
Well, one, Malik, I want to see because he's coming in on the defensive line. I think he's a great potential, very talented young guy. I haven't seen him practice, so we want to see when he gets on the field how fast his immediate impact will be. But I think he has a really bright future. He's a great young man, great family, has a great future on the defensive line. Evan might not have that long-term luxury. Evan might have to be our starting place kicker this year. He's coming in to compete. We had Eddie Pinero declare early for the NFL last year, one of the great kickers, Everett at the University of Florida, declare early to go and play in the NFL. So that job's wide open. And so, Evan might be having to play right away. And so we'll see how how he handles that pressure going through training camp.
We'll go to the third row right here on the aisle.
Hey, Dan, right here.
Hi.
Speaking of wanting to be like Percy, y'all have talked about Tony and comparing him to Percy a lot. I don't know if you saw his Instagram post a month or so ago. All it said on the caption was "not Percy Harvin."
Yeah.
So first of all, what comparison do you see there? What do you see in him? And second, as a coach, would you rather a player embrace that comparison or sort of back away and say, no, let me do my own thing?
No, I love doing their own thing. I've never tried to compare one player to another. I think maybe the comparison comes because they were similar players in high school, playing all different types of position, being a high school quarterback, playing all over the place. And he's playing the same position that Percy played when he was at Florida. But I think that's where the comparison ends between the two. But I've always been that way. I learned that a long time ago. I think that's always tough, though, on young people. As one guy leaves, Tim Tebow leaves as quarterback of Florida. Who's the next Tim Tebow? I don't need the next Tim Tebow. Right? I need, when Dak Prescott left Mississippi State, Nick Fitzgerald took over. Okay. Well, is he going to be the next Dak? No, he's going to be he's the first Nick. That you got to embrace, who you are. But I think, with the fans and they see guys that do similar things, they always like to try to compare who's he like. I don't think that's really fair to the players because you're your own player, and I should never try to do that with them. But I will, I think it happens. Sometimes you're watching, okay, hey, we're going to run this play. Watch, this is how this guy ran it. This is how that guy ran it. Here's the good things and bad things, and they see that on film. But, I try not to compare one player to another.
Go down here on the end, front row on the right.
Coach, you obviously have a long history of working with successful quarterbacks, but the rest of the SEC seems to go through a little bit of a lull sometimes with quarterback play. Is it as deep as you remember it ever being? And just can you speak to just what you see around the league at the quarterback position?
Well, I mean, there's been some great quarterbacks. You go look at NFL rosters. There's a lot of SEC quarterbacks playing at the next level as well. But I think there's some quality players right now in the league. But I think, but it's been that way. I remember leaving Florida. The quarterback room was Tim Tebow, Cam Newton, and Johnny Brantley. That was a pretty good quarterback room. When you look at the talent that those guys had. But so there's been some great quarterbacks around the league, but I think this year there's some question marks, I'm sure, that are going to be out there. I mean, we have one. A lot of schools do, but there are also some guys that come back that have some pretty good experience. And so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out at the end of the year.
We'll go over here to the left side, third row on the end.
Dan, when you were at Florida with Urban, he had kind of a set list of goals each year, win the East, beat Florida State, those kind of things. I'm curious, do you have a similar list of annual goals?
I do at different times with different teams, I'm more in year one with this team. Goal is to play as hard as we can every day, every play, every game, and then improve from one game to the next. Because I want to do that because I think if you worry about that as a goal, you're going to improve, instead of what goals are we not hitting. That's not as important to me as that's a very tangible, because if you do that, then was the season a success or was the season a failure? Well, right now I haven't seen a lot of these guys I've never seen any of them play live in a real game. So it's hard for me to judge complete success or failure, except for I know if you've gotten better from last week to this week. And, that's a very tangible goal that we can achieve. And if you worry about those goals, all of a sudden you're going to be a lot more successful than you thought.
Go down here to the front row.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
You met a young fan named RJ today in a wheelchair. He was really excited to meet you. I wonder if you could share a couple thoughts about what that meant to you, and then also after that, just do you think you can be a guy that becomes synonymous with Florida as in a Steve Spurrier in the past?
Well, it'd be great if I could on the second question one day, 12 years from now, I'll be able to maybe make some really funny jokes and say anything I want up here on stage, and I can be, right, and hopefully be as successful as Coach Spurrier was, and then I can be on that level. But, going to meet RJ, going to meet anybody, you look at people. I'm very fortunate. Every day I get to wake up, I get to live my dream. Go in and be the head coach of the Florida Gators. One of the things that is really impactful, I actually learned from a guy named Tim Tebow, and I don't think he maybe explained it this way back then, but I've learned it through the years, and he did it, is, if you have the opportunity to make positive impact on people's lives, you should do so. And, think of that. So you have a guy like RJ that, has a rare disease going through tough issues in life. If me stopping to sign some autographs and take pictures and talk to him for a couple minutes really brightens up his day, why wouldn't you do that? I'm just blessed that just by me being able to do that can have that positive an impact on someone else's life. I think that is what's special. I'm blessed. Every day I get to do what I love. But in doing what I love, I also can bring joy to people that are going through tough times in life. That's special, and boy, you should be obligated to be, I don't care what you want to call it, a role model, a humanitarian, whatever it is in life, you really should do that, and you should be obligated to do that. If you can make people's lives better, do so.
Go to the camera platform back here on the left.
Hey, Dan.
Hey.
I believe your first year at Florida with Urban was the start of that 11-year win streak against Tennessee.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that rivalry, that first time when you were offensive coordinator, and has that evolved at all now as you take over as head coach?
Well, I've been gone from it for 9 years, so I have no idea where the rivalry currently. I wouldn't even be able to tell you what the win. On a Hail Mary, I saw that. I wouldn't be able to tell you then who won 2 years ago. I think it was always a big game when we got here back then, and it was such a big game. Tennessee, both Florida and Tennessee have been very successful, played in national, in a lot of SEC championships, a lot of national championships through the years. But it was always the first SEC game. And I think that made it even bigger because after that game, you were either 2 games ahead or 2 games behind, because if you won, not only are you 1 game ahead, you also are another game ahead in the tiebreaker head-to-head. So that's what made it such a big game. It's not the first SEC game this year. I don't think that diminishes it as a big game, but I just remember it from then. That was always kind of the, week 3. I think it was always week 3, too, of the season. You always had that game, and you knew that was game 1 on the SEC slate in week 3, and would always be a big game that would set what the rest of the season's going to look like.
Got time for just a couple more. We'll go over here to the right on the back row.
Hey, Coach. To stick on the topic of rivalries, you're used to playing LSU every year,
yeah.
But Mississippi State versus LSU is not quite the rivalry that LSU and Florida is. Can you just kind of speak to the intensity of the LSU-Florida rivalry?
Well, I think sometimes, when you have that constant crossover game, and you have, 2 programs that have been very successful like Florida and LSU, it does become a big rivalry game. It was crazy. I remember even being at Mississippi State, people would laugh and say, well, Kentucky's a big game. That's a big rival game for us because that was our East crossover every year. And boy, that doesn't jump out at you, but it is such a huge game because, they're kind of almost on your side of the league. And so it is. We're excited to have it at home. I know when I was at Florida before, the 4 times, the home team won every game. There were some spectacular games in those 4 games that that were exciting. I mean, they were wild, crazy games, and were a lot of fun to play in because, I mean, you're looking at two teams that expect to win championships playing against each other.
Last question. We'll go over here standing to the left.
Hey, Coach. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You're known as somewhat of a quarterback whisperer, very noted for for being able to find and develop quarterbacks. I guess I'm just curious about what do you see in a quarterback that somebody else doesn't see? What are you? I know you don't want to give away your secrets, but how are you developing them, and how did you become a quarterback whisperer, if you will?
I don't know. I think a lot of it when you are evaluating quarterbacks. There's a lot of different things we look for. You know, I mean, one, it's easy to make mistakes. You got to spend time around them. You got to have them at your, you know, I mean, you got to see them at camps. You know, I mean, in today's recruiting world, it kind of makes it harder and harder. I know back in the old days, you could go to all these different elite camps and watch them. Well, then they outlawed them, but the kids would come to your campus and watch them. Now the elite camps have gotten big again, but we can't be there. So you got to really, really do your homework. You got to spend time around them and start to, you know, look at their mental and physical toughness, their leadership, their intelligence, their processing, how they process information. All of those things are important. And then basically you look and say, okay, this guy has all these intangibles that I like, and this is his skill set. And, okay, did he have skills that I can develop? And if they meet all the intangibles and they have skills that you can develop, they have skills I guess it's kind of one thing. Are they really good at the things that are hard to teach? And the things that are easy to teach, they need the most improvement on, well, then I can help them. You know, because we can fix all of these things. These are trickier, and so you have to really evaluate these guys that are going to be hard to fix. Next thing you have to do is be smart with them. And, you know, I see guys say, okay, this is our offense. This is the offense we run, and the quarterback has to fit the offense. I look and say, okay, this is the quarterback's skill set. What do they do well? And we're going to tweak the offense around what they do well. And that's why you've seen at times where we've had, you know, quarterbacks rush for 1,000 yards. We've had other times where I've had quarterbacks not rush for many yards. Because some of them run better than others, or some throw better than others. And my job is to always put the quarterback in a position to be successful and do what they do well.